Hello and welcome to another episode of the Make More Placement podcast. We've got a very special guest with us today, Steve Guest, who, again, if you work within recruitment, you probably know who he is. For us, I mean, we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, like 18 months ago, we didn't even know that Steve existed, and Steve started promoting his first book, Top Biller, which was is it Amazon bestseller, I believe, Steve?
It's been Amazon bestseller a couple of times now, yeah, across
Amazon
multiple
bestseller
categories.
A couple of times, and yeah, I mean, to me, like, it seemed as if you come out of nowhere, very quickly built your own personal brand. Your face seemed to be on every single platform, everywhere. Yeah, and it's a really, I mean, I said to you at the time, it was a really impressive sort of book launch, a really impressive promo for yourself and what you do and your sort of core beliefs. And now, sort of, you're back again with your second book, A Personal Brand Story, which is, yeah, as we said, it's about, build the importance of building personal brands, which I guess is sort of the, backstory of, what you've learned along your journey. So I'm really looking forward to sort of digging into this and, asking you a few questions about it today.
Can I just add as well, Drew, that just very quickly, and you're right, because 18 months, 2 years ago, we never heard of Steve Brown. 2 books, we meet him for lunch, and we bought him lunch as well. I mean, how did that work?
You did. Look at now, that is the power of a personal brand.
That's right. No, you've done a fantastic job in the whole branding. It's been fantastic. Well done, buddy. Well done.
Thank you. It was a lovely lunch as well. I'd say the strange thing, really, if I'm genuinely honest, I remember talking when you invited me on the podcast, over a year ago. It was my first podcast interview as well at the time. And you mentioned the fact that you were impressed with the launch and the fact that my face was everywhere. At the time, I was making it up as I went along. I really didn't. I suppose it was a progression of, I grabbed every opportunity that came my way. I put myself in uncomfortable areas and new, I suppose, strings to your bow to promote the book, because that's kind of what you've got to do. But it was very much, you just jump to the next level, see what happens. Does it work? Yes. Okay, I'll do that again. Did that option work? Not really. Probably wouldn't go back and do that. And it was a progression of trial and error, I suppose.
Do you not think that's part of some of your language there is really, I think, revealing uncomfortable areas, grabbed opportunities? Is that what you do? Does it work? What I know of you, Steve, that's if someone was to describe your personality, that's who you are. You're going to grab opportunities. You're a grafter. Yeah. You do what needs to be done. Yeah. Does it work? I think that's part of it. It's your personality. That's what you do. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
It is where I am and what I do now. It wasn't who I was probably going back maybe 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. I've lived a life of being that quiet, unassuming, spreadsheet savvy, pretty dull, kind of strategic person that does stuff in a set way. I don't like change. I don't like things to kind of, I suppose, stop me in my tracks. And you get to a point where your life changes, or, I mean, with me, it was having my children, my two boys, and you get to stages where you think, I want to take the risk. I want to sit in the uncomfortable positions where I can then pass that down the generations and say, try this worked, this really worked, this is what I did. If you want to go and do something, go and do it. Look, I've lived a life where I proved that you can do stuff that doesn't come naturally. There's been huge moments of doubt along that way. I remember being asked by James Osborne at the Recruitment Network to do a live 30-minute talk. And he'd sent me a message on a Friday night via LinkedIn. And I read it. And I think I'd had a couple of whiskies and ginger ales, if I'm honest, at the time. And my instant thought process was a 30-minute live talk. I'd never done a live talk. And I just sent a message back saying, yeah, that's fine. Let me know the details. And then panicked for the next 3 days thinking, what the hell have I done? But that's been a process of I suppose you learn, you get used to feeling uncomfortable, knowing that what's the worst that's going to happen, and actually what's the good bits that come out of it. And more often than not, in the experiences I've had, the worst doesn't happen and the good experiences actually come from it, and you become bigger and better.
Yeah. Yeah, some real gems in that, what you said there. So you're okay, say okay, I don't think we ever, yes, I'll use the word, you're okay to step outside your current comfort zone to achieve what it is you want to achieve. And for all of us, to achieve what we want to achieve is stepping outside that comfort zone. Because if we stay within, we're just going to get the results that we're getting now. And
yeah, you don't move forward.
Yeah.
You don't move forward. And being uncomfortable could be staying an extra half an hour and making a few extra calls. It depends on what your normal framework is. And I don't know, I think as I've got older, I've become more interested in people around me. I'm very interested in people that are true kind of entrepreneurs and influencers, people that have created wealth and created and grown as individuals and businesses. I think when you follow that path, the inspiration you get from it, you learn that you've got to do things that don't necessarily come naturally. And me being me, the person that would rather sit in a darkened room and play about with an Excel spreadsheet, isn't someone that would be writing a book called A Personal Brand Story. It isn't somebody that appears on a podcast and talks to individuals. But over the last few years, I've learned that is a path that I actually really enjoy now that I do it and I feel comfortable with it. I love talking to people. I love adding value and creating content that people can go and use for themselves. And I equally think along the way, because I've met and spoke to so many people that feel like they're the same as I used to be, the ones that didn't quite fit in, or the ones that were told they weren't any good or they weren't going to make it. And they come to me and send me a message saying, Steve, you've inspired me to go into work Monday and actually kick ass, or you've inspired me to be comfortable with who I am and just accept it and move forward. Almost gives my confidence a little bit of a boost to say, this is what I'm doing and these are the people I'm bringing with me. And it gives it greater power because the mission becomes bigger.
Brilliant.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. I do want to sort of dig into that a bit more, but I just wanted to, I mean, you said something before we started recording or before we started the interview. You were sort of explaining how you view the difference between, like a company brand and a personal brand, and why you think a personal brand is more important. I guess for sort of people tuning in, can you just give us like the overview of, from your experience, why a personal brand is to you more important, and why, you think recruitment and search consumers should be paying attention to it?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been recruiting for 15 years. I still recruit now. I still work the same desk, the same sector. And when I first got into recruitment, I was always told the biggest difference between me and all of my competition was always and only ever going to be me. I make the difference because it's down to me whether I make those calls. It's down to me whether I dig deep enough to find the best candidates. It's always about me and how hard I'm going to work to fulfill the best service for client and candidate to outperform my competition. So even from the very first day, it's about personal branding. But the personal branding 15 years ago was a bit about me being more active than my competition, making more calls, selling who I am as an individual, what makes me different to everybody else, why am I going to fill that position ahead of everyone else that calls you, why should you meet me instead of meeting my competition. All of these things is personal branding. The difference back then was I would ask clients and candidates to write testimonials on letter-headed paper. I'd put them in a folder. I'd then take the folder with me on meetings and say, look, this is how good I am. These people all talk positive thoughts about me. This is what they've put down on paper. The clients would look at their competition in there in the letter-headed paper and think, well, if Steve's placing people here, I want to be dealing with Steve for finding me candidates. That was the personal brand. The difference now is you've got social media, and it's so powerful on the basis that everything that I was doing back then, which was phone call and activity, can be one message to many on social media and deliver it faster to people that I don't necessarily have direct contact with now. That personal brand ability to make me the key person that they go to is what makes the difference. It is now as it was then. It's far faster, more available, and probably a darn sight easier to create that branding now on a much larger scale in a quicker time period. What we were saying, or what we touched on off air, was a company can do that. And we all know recognizable brands and companies, the Coca-Colas of the world, the Virgins, and you associate that. But generally, there's still a person that you attach to it, Richard Branson, Virgin. There's still the personal brand that's there. You've got Gary Vaynerchuk, Elon Musk, and those sorts of names you still associate with the brand. And I would say the personal brand is as strong as, if not stronger, than the actual companies that they work to. And I just think the rise of social media allows people to engage with an individual better, because you see the whites of their eyes, you get to build trust, you get to build that ability to get to know someone for who they are. A corporate or a company image can hide, I suppose, a multitude of faces, and you don't necessarily attach something to it unless you love drinking Coca-Cola, you love Virgin Holidays, you've got a Tesla, whatever it might be. But I just feel within recruitment, because it's about the individuals, because it's service, it's about relationships, it's always going to be about the individuals concerned and not the company.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And you think in terms of recruitment, when recruiters move from company to company or change career paths at certain points, generally the clients that they've always serviced will follow the consultant. They don't necessarily stick with the company, because it's the consultant that's filled the positions. It's not the company brand. And I think,
and that's who they have the relationship with as well, isn't it? It's with the consultant.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think that there's a battle. If you, within recruitment, if you can get the personal brands to align with the company brands, it's a really powerful place to be. I don't think it will be long before you've got the bigger company recruitment brands that are putting their consultants through training programs specifically targeting personal brand. Because I also get the fact that if I put a post out now, it's my post, it's a personal branding post, but I can align it and associate it with my business because it's my business. If I'm a new recruiter working for someone like Hayes or Randstad or Adecco, my view on what's funny might not align with what a corporate brand would see as funny, and it might be detrimental to the brand. And we all know a brand can fall very quickly if it's associated with the wrong things or the wrong press. So there's got to be an element of control, but it still comes back to the fact that that consultant has to be able to build something for clients and candidates to engage with that individual outside of the necessary phone calls and general activity. So whilst at the moment, I think they probably have a ruling to say, you don't have personal branding, we share company posts, you either share it, like it, or comment, and that's how it works. But I do believe that will change.
For the big boys, you think they will give the consultants more freedom?
I think they've got to.
Yeah.
For me, the majority of the roles that I've filled this year, and it's been a good year so far, and I'm including the people within the office, the majority have come from social media. It hasn't come from job boards. It hasn't come from endless amounts of cold calls to candidates to say, are you looking? It comes from warm leads and incoming interaction from individuals that follow me through my network.
Yeah.
And if big brands don't catch on with that, if corporate brands don't catch on with it, I firmly believe they'll get left behind, which they're not going to let happen. So they've got to adapt.
Yeah. Interesting. And from your point of view, what then prompted you to go think, right, that's it. I'm going to publish a book on this very subject about personal brand, the brand story.
Do you know what? I think Top Biller did better than I thought it would. It went past any expectations that I had. And I think the journey from publishing the first book, from going from somebody that was unknown or relatively unknown and saying yes to the opportunities and bouncing from one thing to the next and actually finding lots of opportunity. And I've really enjoyed the process, certainly over the last 2 years. And there's been some days where you get up fretting about what's going to happen. The first live webinar, your first live Facebook video. I went live in the US, which was amazing, but again, completely new. And all the panic, the sweaty palm moments, the bits where you sit there thinking, I can't do this, all those elements of doubt, but you still push through and do it. I know I've got people around me that would stop at the points where they think, I don't like this. Well, why would you ever do that? Why would you put yourself out there? There's people out there that know that they need to do it and need that little gentle push, or the ability to see that even the quiet, unassuming person that where it doesn't come naturally can do it. If Steve can do it, I definitely can do it. So that was the motivation behind the book. It was to share the fact that personal branding is a journey. I don't know where this journey is going to go. I'm enjoying it at the moment. It could end tomorrow, or it could continue in further opportunities, and it's great. But hopefully people gain some value from the ups and downs of what I've been through. They could gain some empowerment, inspiration from the fact that they can just go out there and do it. They could put their first video out there and see that actually there's not too much damage caused along the way. And if it does as much as that, then the book's achieved what it needs to achieve.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And
just on that, so look, I think social media's been around for a while now. I think when it first came out, people had question marks over whether they should be doing videos, whether they should be posting consistently, whether they should be doing any of this stuff. I think we're at a time now where almost everybody knows they should be doing it. They know, if they've done, they can see the benefits of it. There's no question, if they built a personal brand, posted more content, there's no question they'd benefit from it. But there's this big sort of fear around it. What would be like what's the first step for someone who's maybe listening to this, watching this now, knows the benefits, but just is afraid to sort of make that first leap? I guess if you could go back, what advice would you have given to yourself, and what advice would you give to them?
The biggest thing for me is just it's consistently showing up. So if you go back to the old stat that it takes 7 touch points to build a working relationship. So in traditional recruitment, that's probably a cold call once a month for 7 months. It builds they used to say it takes 6 to 9 months to build a recruitment desk. That's with that thought process in place.
Yeah.
I look to post 10 times a week, ideally, twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. So I'm, in theory, potentially turning up 10 times in 1 week on one person's timeline. If you consistently show up, who is the first name that's going to be in somebody's mind when they have a need? It's the person that keeps showing up. It's that person that appears every morning, every afternoon. They're sat in their team meeting, their directors meeting, thinking, we need a QS in Birmingham. Who's that person that keeps popping up? Who's that guy that wrote the book? Who's that guy that keeps shouting his mouth off and turning up on videos and putting posts out there? They think of me. They don't think of the content of the post. They don't sit there. If I asked somebody and just picked someone from random and said, my posts last week, what were they talking about? Generally, people don't remember. They just remember it's me. And that's the whole point. We get so hung up on an individual post, the content or quality of what the message is. And actually, it's not about that. Some of my best posts have had no value and no content. It could be me having a rant because LinkedIn's changed its algorithms and I'm getting last week's post. There's no value in that at all. It's me just saying, what is going on with LinkedIn today? Is anyone else having the same issues? But that post goes flying around the whole network. People get to see me. They then start to follow you or connect with you. And then they see the fact that I recruit for surveyors, I recruit for estimators. I've got a book, I run a training program, all of these things. If you're bringing people to the network, regardless of the posts, will bring you opportunity. I think to answer your question, most people, whilst they have the fear of posting, the biggest struggle is thinking of what to post. And this all becomes a bigger problem because they don't know what to post, and then they're scared that what they do post might be irrelevant, or they'll get a bunch of keyboard warriors that attack them. For me,
what do you say to people? Sorry, Steve, go on.
Well, yeah, we touched on this, didn't we, when we met a couple of weeks ago? Keyboard warriors, people that troll, people that add negative comments, in the norm, I tend to ignore, or I treat them with kindness, or try and make humor out of the comment. Quite often I'll say things like, you just sound like you need a bit of a cuddle, or I try and think of something that responds to them in a jovial way. But generally I'll ignore them because everyone's got a right to their opinion. Everyone has an ability to post. More often than not, the negative comments, you find that your network defends you, and will go after the keyboard warrior anyway.
Yeah, and we talked about this. With all three of us on this call have had criticism when posting, and we all agreed that when we get the criticism, it actually has a benefit in as much that whenever I get criticised, my number of connections increase. I get more inquiries because people don't realize what they're doing, but it's actually boosting your outreach when they're posting stuff on you. So but I know at the beginning when I first did it, you can take it personally. Oh, crikey! But anybody listening to thinking, what if I get criticised? I've got some news for you. You will get criticised. Let's be absolutely clear about this. There's no getting away from it. And you're going to have to kind of roll with those punches, but it's okay. And they say we talked about this over lunch, and we all agreed that we ultimately benefited when we got criticism. So when I get criticism now, there's a wry smile on my face thinking they have no idea how much this benefits me when they have a pop at me and kind of bring it on.
The best posts are the ones that divide opinion.
Yeah.
100%. If you can get your network talking in the comments of your post, the benefits of that to you are, firstly, you're not involved, so it's not taking up any of your time, but it's promoting your post higher and above anything else because it's creating engagement and interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes. I remember my first few posts, I had a guy that was trolling my shirt and jumper combos. That jumper doesn't go with that shirt. What shirt and jumper are you going to wear tomorrow? They're thinking, what? It's time do you have on your hands? But you've got to almost just take a step back and just think, you're not there for that. You're there to promote whatever's in the post. You're there to build that brand so people come to you as the chosen person. So treat it professionally, act accordingly, either ignore or treat it with a bit of humor.
I guess what would you say? Because I've found there's two groups, or sometimes the same person, but one who's sort of fearful of that negative feedback. But then there's another group that's almost scared that they'll get no feedback whatsoever. I'll get no comments, I'll get no likes, and that almost feels worse in a way. I guess what would your advice be to those people?
Well, that is going to happen as well. So if you're not used to posting and you're not used to engaging, you're not used to interacting on social media, I can tell you now, if your first post goes out this afternoon, people aren't going to engage with your post either because you haven't done anything in return. Why should they? Why would they? Personal brand posting, social media is a journey. The first week, the first 2 weeks, the first month, there might be very little engagement. The whole process is about keep showing up. If you're engaging in your market, if you're commenting on other people's posts within your sector and your markets, people come back to your posts and they do it. They reciprocate the fact that you're engaging, and it grows and it grows and it grows. I work with recruiters on this very subject, and Ironically, one of the recruiters called me up, this is a few months ago, and said, I put a post out yesterday about the power of personal branding and the journey and the impact it's had on me. And he goes, I'm ringing you really just to let you know and have a bit of a chuckle that nobody liked it. He's put a post out about personal branding and nobody commented or engaged. And he was devastated on one hand, but also seeing the irony on the fact that he's promoting what he's doing, but nobody interacted. And the story is, I said to him, well, that post you put out again next year, and I guarantee the interaction will have rocketed, because he's now being far more effective within social media. The struggle recruiters have in general is, if I put a post out with a job advert or promoting the fact I've got a vacancy, candidates aren't going to like it because they don't want to tell people they're looking. Clients aren't going to like it because they don't want to tell the world that they've also got a requirement that's very similar. Everything that happens generally happens off the social media platform. So the majority of it comes from DMs and messages, phone calls, text messages saying, Steve, I've seen your post. Could you give me some more details? That's the difference. And that's where recruiters struggle, because they could put a post out and get zero engagement. But actually, their in-mails are flying through. They've got 4 or 5 CVs that have come from a direct approach because they've seen the post. But none of us ever quantify it. None of us ever say to the person that they're speaking to, oh, are you ringing because of that post? And then they record it against their file to know when they've placed them, they've made a 10 grand fee from placing someone off a post. That's the hard bit.
Yeah, it's a really good point then. Drew, well, you'll know who I'm talking about. We used to work with, because we teach all this, and it's a great reminder. And one of the guys that we work with is an executive search firm within rail and infrastructure. And he tells his story where he's at his office and he gets a phone call. And the HR director of a major organization says, oh, we had a meeting today and a number of our board members know who you are. We'd like you to come along and have a discussion about some executive search work. And he's like, fantastic. So he packs his bag and he gets over there. He said, but before I go, I want to see who the board are, to see who it is that I know on the board. So, and he looked and he thought, I haven't met any of these guys. Not one of the guys on the board. He's meeting 4 of the board members. He hadn't met any of them. What he then did, though, was to see whether he was connected to them on LinkedIn, and he was and he was. He then saw the post and they reacted to his post. So although he never met him, there they were in a board meeting talking about, we need an executive search firm, and they all mentioned this guy because they'd seen his post. And they all felt that they knew him, because one director says, oh yeah, I know who he is. Yeah, I know it. But yeah, we know. But in the reality, they'd never met him. Yeah. That's the power of
it's the world of social media.
Yeah,
the amount of networking meetings I've turned up to, and you have people come up to you and talk to you, and they're talking as if they've known you for years, and you stood there thinking, I have no idea who this person is. And you have to interrupt to say, I'm really sorry, but I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And the response is genuinely, I'm ever so sorry. Do you know what? I see your face that often during the week. I feel like I already know you. And then they'll introduce themselves. And the relationship is so warm. It's so positive because firstly, they've approached you. So they're coming over for a reason or a specific point. And you haven't had to go through that cold introductory period. That is the power. So anybody that is fearful of interaction or fear of the keyboard warrior, yet they're genuine. We all have them. We all go through that process. But the ability to walk into a room of generally unknown individuals, and yet they already know you, removes probably 7 months of old school recruitment worth of activity to get to making a placement. And that's the power of the personal brand. That's the power of social media and the speed at which it has moved.
Yeah, okay. So look, you've talked about the importance of being consistent with your posting. I guess sort of the next question that we often get is, what do I talk about? What do I say? I need to show up every day, multiple times on LinkedIn or Facebook, wherever, but what do I actually say that's going to get people interested in what, my recruitment or search services?
Yeah. So I split my 10 posts up. I say 10, it's not always 10. That's the target. That's the aim. And I split them into what I call 70-20-10. So 70% of the posts, or 7 posts, is about my business. It's about my market. It's about my specialism. It's what I want to be known for. So commercial construction recruitment across the West and East Midlands. That is me. 7 posts related to that, 7 adverts, 7 promotions of the number of positions I've got or the candidates I'm representing. If I'm going out to meetings or I'm going out to candidates and doing the pre-qualification, it's a discussion of those areas. I'll put 2 posts out that are relevant to me as an individual so people can get to know who I am. So I'm going to a bonsai training session on Saturday. I can't wait. Workshop, 9 till 4. I'll get to learn a little bit more about how to train and make your bonsai trees. A bit about me. But it's also things like what motivates me, what drives me to achieve my goals, what perks me up on days where I wake up and just can't be bothered to even go into work. How do I react to that? How do I react to when you get let down? It's things like that get people bought into who you are. And then I'll pick a post that's generally trending. So subjects that are in the news that I try and avoid politics and religion, but stick to things that, stick to things that are perhaps quite topical or people will generally have an opinion on that's not going to separate you from your market sectors or your general network. And that's it. That's in a nutshell. When I had consultants start with me in January this year, they were very new to social media, and I would get a call on most days saying, "Steve, I don't know what to post today. What do I put out?" And my questioning back would be, "Okay, so how are you feeling? What's happened this week? What do you feel pleased with? What's gone wrong? How have you worked with it? What have you adapted? What have you done this week that is new?" All of these sorts of things are really important. I had a candidate drop out. Okay, so what did you do? Did you backfill it? Did you replace it? Did you pre-qualify the candidate properly? What were the problems involved? Or I've placed 3 people this week. I've had the best week ever. I've made 18 interviews. Okay, so why don't you tell the world you've had a really good week and you've sorted 18 interviews? If there's a candidate looking for a new role and you've just arranged 18 interviews, who are they going to call? If there's a client looking to fill a position, who are they going to look at? The person that's just done 18 interviews. If you don't tell someone outside of this room what you've done this week, how are they ever going to know that you're a successful consultant? Unless you sit in front of them and tell them. Everything
How long would that
you
take?
post, you've got to get the meeting for. You've got to get them to take the call.
That's right.
And you're hardly going to ring someone on a cold call and say, "Do you know what? This week I've done 18 interviews." You're not going to do it, are you? And people, when I have these conversations, will sit there and say, "Yeah, but isn't that a bit cringy? Saying how good I am. Look at me. I've done 18 interviews this week." It's not cringy. It's promoting the fact that you're good at what you do. And if you word it and frame it in the right way, it's not about saying, "Look at me, I'm amazing." It's about saying, "Look, from a business perspective, this is what I've achieved this week. Really busy, looking forward to having a few beers tonight because I have grafted my what's-its off this week to make sure I've filled positions for my client and I've found positions for my candidates. Everyone's going home happy. It's been a good week." It's not cringy. It's success. And it's promoting the fact that you're good at what you do.
Yeah, we get that. Is it a bit cringy? And I always say, well, take a look at the adverts on TV. Those products and services are advertising. Is that cringy, or they're just promoting? And if they don't promote it, if you don't promote yourself, who will? If you think that just being good at your job and being a good recruiter is sufficient to get your business, I've got some bad news. It's not going to happen.
Take a look at some of my Instagram photos if you want to see cringy. I mean, there's me doing all sorts of pointing signs, and you've just go with it, embrace it. It's part of the fun. Just, I suppose, learn to relax a little bit and enjoy the process, because it really works.
And that's interesting. You've mentioned their Instagram. You've mentioned LinkedIn. So what are the platforms that you personally use, Steve?
Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn being the prime platform for me. It's where I've got the strongest network, the biggest interaction. If I'm honest, I used to split them off. So it was Instagram was kind of family, kids, what we got up to outside of work. Facebook was just social and the property side of what I do. And LinkedIn was the recruitment, I suppose, recruiting network platform. And then over the last 3 or 4 years, they've probably merged where I kind of cross post and share different things because it's a different audience. People react in a different way. And I think there's a different experience dependent on platform. I did attempt TikTok. Can't say I'm a fan. Never quite mastered that one. And Twitter years ago, but not for me now. Don't really do much.
And what do you say to people that say that LinkedIn's for business and Facebook's for personal and never the two should? What's your response to that? Because some people object to some of the posts on LinkedIn because they say it's too personal.
I think, as I've said, you've got to have personal posts in there because you're an individual and people want to engage with humans and people that are genuine, and we all have our ups and down days. So I think LinkedIn, yes, it has a business orientation, and I think it needs to have an element of that. But I'm all for it. I think people should post what they want to post when they want to post it. And if there's a reason for doing that, then so be it. I think who's to say what sort of platform should be whatever they think it should be? People will always have an opinion. They'll always disagree. I'm quite happy for people to put this should be on Facebook because it's just a bit more engagement.
That's right. And I always think as well, it's since the platform belongs to LinkedIn, if they didn't want it on there, surely they're the ones that say this shouldn't be on here, not some individual saying, well, this is for Facebook, it should be on LinkedIn.
Who are we to decide? Who am I to decide what you should post? If you want to post it, go and post it.
Yeah.
Obviously get the company's permission if you work for a big corporate brand. But...
Yeah. Excellent. I've got so many questions. I'm just going to hand over to Drew because I've got so many questions I want to ask you, Steve. But let me just get to Drew.
Yeah, I guess, like, you mentioned right at the beginning of this interview. I've been thinking about it since, actually. It's something we talk about a lot. You said that you weren't the type of person to, be into this sort of thing, like be into sort of posting, speaking about what you're doing. It wasn't who you were, but you said you had to become that person. And one of the things that we talk about a lot with clients is, the importance of identity. And for you to achieve a certain thing, you have to become that person first, and then you achieve it. So I guess this is sort of coming away from branding, but it's linked because I want to know how you got to the point you are now. What do you do when you need to effectively transform your identity and become someone different in order to hit a particular goal?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one to answer because I haven't changed who I am. I've progressed and I've grown. So I'm still effectively the person that loves spreadsheets, works to a process, doesn't like change too much. I have a set way of working every day of the week. And I think what I've done over time is I've added elements to what I do and how I work. I'm also very selfish in how I use my time. And if I can multitask and get other elements working to allow me to be more successful and be better at what I do, then I will utilize those areas. So for me, if we take recruitment as an area to discuss, so I generate, or let's say I make a phone call and I get a quantity surveyor role in first thing on a Monday. Do I then spend the next 24 hours calling around all the surveyors in Birmingham? Yeah, there's an element of degree to that. I will make a lot of calls. But the biggest impact for me initially before social media was to get a mail shot out to say, I've just registered this great vacancy. It'd go out to a multitude of surveyors who would then hopefully respond with their interest. The ability now with social media and branding is you can send the mail shot out, you can put a post out on social media platforms, and then you can make the calls. You've got 3 elements all working for you to fill that position. And they all work at the speed of light, except for the phone calls, which will be the slowest. But if you're making phone calls to specific people while there's two other elements doing their work behind the scenes, and you've only got to make or take one action, that's a really good use of time. And I think effectively, because I want to be as efficient as I can be, the ability to bring in other avenues that add a greater impact, I see that as a greater benefit than my insecurities as to how I might be seen on social media. And I think if that's answered your question properly, it's about getting bigger and better results quicker, using my time more efficiently, which is greater than me worrying about what someone might think. And I think over time, the worries slowly go away because you've seen it, been there, had messages and comments and whatever else, and it doesn't really affect your thought process because you know the mission is bigger. And I think that's what, I as an individual, I am still a quite unassuming person. You'd never see me run into a room of a crowded group of people and be the loudest one in there. Up until leaving working with Fast Track back end of 2019, I would sit in a board of directors meetings and I would still be the quietest in there. When the new directors arrived, my comments to them was, I would always be the one that makes copious amounts of notes at the back of a room. I will listen intently, but I might not necessarily raise my hand every 5 minutes because that's just how my brain works. I need it to process. It might take me a couple of days to process it sometimes. And then I'll come back with some reasoned arguments or questions or why I may disagree with the point. I'm not one that necessarily jumps in with 2 feet. I'm quiet, reserved. I'm a high C on a disc profile. I'm all about the detail and doing the research first. I'm still that person, but I understand the processes that can add benefit to what I do. And I can say from first hand, it makes a massive, massive difference if you can get over your personal hurdles to actually start utilizing things like social media to enhance who you are and what you do.
Yeah, you talked about leverage.
Kind of went,
yeah,
leverage is really powerful. The number of people that have helped me along the way is just an ever-growing list, and I'm truly thankful for the people that you have around you, but they elevate who you are and how you are. Doing this podcast now is leverage. It promotes all of us in this podcast because we all are heading in a similar direction. And the ability to leverage other people's networks, whether that is a client's networks, a candidate's network, or fellow recruiters or coaches, that's what we all want to do because we're all looking for results in some instance or some way. People don't necessarily leverage their networks in the right way or don't necessarily understand the benefits of doing it.
Excellent. Yeah, we've covered so many points here. You've covered the haters, you covered leverage there, differentiating yourself, you covered the power of social media, and so on. I want to kind of change things slightly because there was something in the book, and I wasn't aware that you did this. You know, we've spoken on numerous occasions. I said we met and we had to buy you lunch, but not that I'm bitter about it. But seriously, in your book, you talk about journaling. Can you tell us a bit about that, what you do and what prompted you to do that and the benefits you found for you on the personal level?
Yeah.
If you tell us what it is for those that don't know, first of all.
The journaling.
Yeah.
So the journaling actually started, so I had a different idea for my second book initially. And it might still happen, so I'm not going to give too many details. But the idea was to basically journal a certain period of time, my good days, my bad days, everything that happened, and really document a journey from a start point to a finish. So the idea was there because it was going to be the central function of the second book. Now, when I first started writing the second book, it was pre-COVID, it was pre-lockdown, it was pre the global world changing on a drastic scale, and it, I suppose, affected the potential outcome of the second book, which changed my thought process to create the personal brand story. So the journaling actually is a really, really good exercise, and I've continued to do it, because when you look back, and part of the journal that I've put in the book, you look at it and you just think, why was I ever worried about that? Why did I sit there and panic over something for sometimes days, when actually what you ended up doing, if it was the live webinar or the live talk, was over in 30 minutes. It went really well. The feedback's been amazing. Because of the worry and the panic, you actually did it justice. So you put a lot of effort in and you were pleased with the information you provided. Actually, half the things we worry about aren't worth worrying about. And I think until you go back and have that self-reflection or review, quite often we'll just write days off, or we'll forget how we actually felt on those days, because you just move on to the next thing, or you move on to the next day, or actually you just ignore the fact that you had a weak day or a rubbish day. So journaling is something that I suppose I fell into on the basis that I thought there would be a different outcome. But many of the people I surround myself with journal, and they talk about the power of having a journal and something where you can look back and give yourself a high five if that's needed. It's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, there's lots of evidence to support it. It's great for mental health. And the point you made earlier about that, the thing that we encourage with our clients, and we do, is that opportunity just to reflect on things. And as you said, sometimes we can get caught up in stuff and worrying, but then when you reflect on it and you think, actually, and also recording the things that you're grateful for in your life as well, has got many benefits. I say I didn't know that you did that until I read your book and thought, oh, right. But I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, sometimes I'll put that out as posts as well.
Okay.
I would like to think that people see me for who I am. I am a genuinely grateful, humble individual that has, I suppose, no real expectation as to where this process goes. But actually, I'm really thankful for everybody that takes part in it along the way. And I mean that genuinely. I am thankful, because everyone has had some sort of impact, whether it's face-to-face meetings, whether it's Zoom meetings, or literal
or lunch
support, or lunch, which is lovely, by the way. It all has an impact. It all has a bearing, and whether we know it at the time or not, it kind of makes you into who you are as you progress. And I think because I'm a positive person, I'm a genuinely positive, happy person that wants to do good things and try things, and sometimes it will fail, sometimes it will work. But if you're surrounding yourself with good people, they'll pick you up on the down days, they'll kick you when you need it, they'll motivate you when you need it, and they'll also give you a high five when you need that too. And I think people quite often miss the gratitude involved with all of that, and it's a really important habit to kind of grab.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Drew, back to you, buddy.
Yeah. Again, I wanted to bring one to promote your book. Can you, I guess, just give us a quick 30-second picture of why people should get it, where they can get it. Let us know more about it.
Okay. So you can get it, I think it's 7,000 bookstores worldwide, so you're not going to struggle. The reason you should get it is if you've got any doubt, if you're sat there thinking, what can I do? How can I do it? What's holding me back? I'm fearful of this, that, and the other. It will guide you through the ups and downs of what I went through, that will give you value, give you belief, and empower you to go and make a difference and do something. The most important part is to take some action. If your action today is to buy the book and read it, you're one step closer to actually doing it.
Excellent. Yeah. We both read it. We both thoroughly enjoyed it. It was worth buying lunch for just to get the book, Steve.
There you go. Book 3 will be out hopefully in the next 12 months. We'll put another date in the diary. You're on. But seriously, if you're in the recruitment staffing industry and you've seen other people doing this and you're not sure how to do it, really would recommend this book. It's called The Personal Brand. Really would recommend it. It's literally in some stage it's step by step, exactly what to do and how to do it. So get yourself a copy. I guess it's also available in Amazon as well. So 7,000 bookstores as well as Amazon. A Personal Brand Story. Excellent. Steve, thank you very much indeed. It's been an absolute pleasure again. Been on our podcast twice now. Yeah. Hey? Yeah. It's always a pleasure. I really, really enjoyed chatting to you, and thank you for the invite.
Not at all. And we will definitely do it again. And if we must buy you lunch again, Steve, I suppose we will. But
I'll return the favour next time. We can't be having this, fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.